Hey, Kalari here. I just wanted to say you didn't have to close the door, but if you want, you can. It don't matter. Thank you for helping out. I guess you're gonna walk around. Huh? You can. You can close the door if you want. I mean, if I don't mind you being in the video either, if you wanted to come and say hello, but this is gonna be something serious your mom wanted to talk about. So okay, love you. All right. Sorry about that, y'all. And I probably should edit this part out, but I'm not. Honestly, there's nothing about my life that I hide. So if you know me, you know you get the real, unvarnished, unfiltered me. And that's just the way I carry myself, regardless of comments or anything else. But I feel like a lot of people want to get to know who I am, and it's hard. I won't lie. I prefer to wear the mask of how I carry myself online sometimes so that people don't get too close. So the gruff old lady that you see sometimes, before you start, you're not old. I feel old, so calm it down. And to a lot of people, I am old. I'm 44 in a few days, so yeah. Thing is, there's a lot about me that people don't know or understand, and why I am the way I am about bullying, about taking sides, about gang up culture, as I call it. And it's because of who raised me. And I don't mean the positive people who raised me, because I could sing my grandmother's praises, both of them, to the heavens for hours. But they aren't the most impactful people in my life, sadly. They help keep me going. They're probably why I survived all of these years. I've taken a lot of what I learned from them to survive through hard times. But I went through a lot of things that in our community we're told not to talk about. We're not supposed to put our business out there. But one of the things that I realize is that we can't keep internalizing abusive situations. And when you have a parent with narcissistic personality disorder, it is hard on a kid, because you see so much manipulation, you see so much shady shit. And then when you have a parent that has NPD and then substance abuse problems, which I am not knocking those with substance abuse problems. I understand more than you know that the need to escape is so strong. And my mom's situation wasn't ideal for her. So she went to the one thing that could give her some form of comfort. But she already had a messed up mind and a very self centered mind. So adding drugs to the equation made it worse. And then on top of those two things, she has a very violent personality. So it was like a trifecta of terrible. And I want some of you to understand the manipulative strategies that people with narcissistic personality disorder do, because it might help you if you're in the same situation. And one of the things I am telling you right now, this is the hardest thing I ever had to do, and it's still ongoing. You have to cut off contact. Complete, total shut down contact with them, even if they're your parent, if you can do it, because there are some people stuck in a situation. I was stuck in my situation for years, and it wasn't the first time. I gave my mom 3 times the 3 strikes rule. I don't always like the whole 3 strikes thing. As you know, I crusade against the legal system for certain people as it is. But I can understand why some people really do need 3 strikes. I gave my mom 3 chances in my adult life to get her shit together, because she likes to suffer from the condition I like to call ain't shititis. And we've all gone through it. I think there isn't a human alive who hasn't had a moment of ain't shititis. And ain't shititis is when you just don't got your shit together. And you really don't want to get your shit together. You're just doing you. And she is a full on, I'm going to do me, I don't care who gets hurt type. So her ain't shititis wasn't unknown to me. I just thought as we got older, we could have like maybe a golden girl situation. It doesn't work out like that because people like her cannot stop being who they are. And I'm not saying that there's no recovery, but you got to want recovery. And a lot of people with narcissistic personality disorder refuse to acknowledge that there's anything wrong with them. Or even if they're saying that there's something wrong with them, they're using it to excuse their bad behavior. If you hear my mother say something like, "Oh yeah, I'm messed up," it's either to be blasé about it because for right now, which boggles my mind as somebody with schizoaffective disorder, people are acting like mental illness is like a fashion accessory. Oh, I'm just doing me because I'm mental. Please stop doing that. Mental health is not an excuse for bad behavior. And if you act up and you have mental health problems, you are still responsible for what you do. You give us all a stigma when you do this crap. You need to stop. And it's bad because a lot of people with narcissistic personality disorder will take the sympathy that people should have for the fact that their brains do not work on a level that is considered normal and manipulate the situation. Another thing they like to do is find people who are loyal to them. This is a strategy I have watched my mom for over 40 years employ. She definitely likes seeking out broken people for friends and in our family. She liked the people that, especially in our family, large black families like to do things like talk about each other and gossip. Don't act like you are above it. And then having a multi-ethnic family, we had a lot of different back and forths and beefs. She loved being the good auntie to the people who always felt like they were being dogpiled on because they would in turn be her foot soldiers. You can't talk bad about the favorite auntie because she'll spoil you. She'll give you money. She'll buy you treats. She'll love up on you. All the while, she's talking shit about y'all too. Another thing is she's very manipulative about money. There's a reason why, even though I love that so many of you guys offer me help, that I tense. I thought about it because, for my birthday, me and Axiom talked about, you should just put out there, hey, if you want to help me out a bit, because I do struggle some months. Taking care of kiddo, taking care of the house. It's my birthday. You want to send me a little something, but I always feel guilty about that because I watched my mom lie to family members saying, Tin and I need help. We're struggling. And then she used the money to get high. And I still have family members who think that they were giving me money directly when I had no dime in that quarter. She was using the fact that I don't ask people because I don't like owing people. And I feel like if you help me, and I'm sorry, y'all, I feel like when y'all help me, that you're going to turn around and say, I have to do stuff for you. And I hate that I can't talk about this stuff without getting emotional because you can see the scars this has. I just want to do stuff like this without crying. But I want to give you a real look at how this affects somebody. So I'm not going to edit this part out, but I'm going to try to compose myself because I don't want to blubber through this because this is a serious topic. But I feel like it hits you sometimes how manipulative the situation is. You watch your own mother telling family, oh yeah, our bills are behind. Oh yeah, we need money for this and that. And then she's going out and using it for anything but. And I'm not going to act like we weren't struggling at times, but she wasn't helping me. I keep tight financial records of everything I do. And I can even say in manic times, there are times where I have fucked up my own money. So I do not lay all that blame on her. But the only reason why I have a solid roof over my head, and the only reason I've had a solid roof over my head for the last few years now, is because I make sure to pay my own bills. And you can bet your bottom dollar that that woman has barely put a dime in my life since having me. But she was telling people in our family that they needed to send us money for bills. And I can tell you something. I made a joke to Greg that my life really is like a streetcar named Desire's character Blanche. The kindness of strangers have been way kinder than the people I share a DNA genetic bond with. That is the real raw reality of my life. I know I can rely more on absolute strangers that only know me from online, if that much, to help when I say I need help without strings attached, even though mentally for me, I feel like it was going to attach strings. And I hope that you're not offended by me saying that. I am working on getting better with asking for help, but it's still never going to be easy for me because I was with such a manipulative person. The one time my mom really came to bat for me, and I'll never forget this because it was 2015. I had gotten in over my head. I had my own townhouse. It was just me and kiddo. I had started a new job. I thought I was making enough to cover everything. So I had deluxe everything. I wanted to live large. I had my own place in Durham. I wanted to live like the queen I thought I was. And I overextended myself a lot. And I had an upcoming trip to leave the country with my son. I had a whole vacation plan. I was living way above my means. And with mental health issues, I just did not want to tell myself or believe that I was doing anything wrong. And I nearly got me and my son evicted for my lack of responsibility. And I take full accountability for that. I just wanted to do me. It was my moment of ain't shititis, which, as many of us who have been raised by narcissistic personality disorder parents and people who ain't shit know, we can copy that mentality. And it takes a lot of work to actively not be like that. But I digress. 2015 was a really hard time for me, and I messed up financially, and I did not want to get put out of my house. I loved that townhouse. I loved that area. My son was driving. He was in a good school, and I panicked, and I went to Facebook of all places because I was active on Facebook back then for help from family, because I thought, these are people bragging about their Prada and going to Hawaii and shit, that, Tim doesn't ask for this kind of stuff. She's putting out there that she needs help. What can I do? And two people came to my aid. One was my very dear, sweet friend, Miss Roz from Australia, who gave me a loan, and we made it clear to each other that this was a loan that had to be paid back. And then my mom, who just all out of blue decided she wanted to help me. And between the two of them, not only did I get to take kiddo on the vacation and had a good time with my son, but I was able to stay in my house. And I paid Miss Roz back with the help of my mom as well, because the amount she had given me at the time not only covered the bills that I needed, but I was able to pay back the loan from Miss Roz. So I'm never going to act like my mom never helped me. That help came with deep, barbed strings attached. For the next 4 years after that, after letting her move back in, because according to her, the person she was living with, who she is now currently living with again, was manipulative, threatening to put her out. My mom was the victim of alleged bullying that I found out later on didn't happen. Why? Because people with narcissistic personality disorder are always the victims, even if they're the ones doing this. And let me tell you something about my mom. She is a bully. Now, I can count on my hands the amount of times she had to physically whip my ass. So she did have to beat me a couple of times. I'm not saying I didn't deserve those times she had to resort to that. It's not fun. I can also say that about my son. I've only had to spank him once for an incident that he did in elementary school. I don't like spanking for a reason. But My middle sister, who is somebody I don't really get along with for our own personal reasons, and this topic isn't about her, so I'm not going to go in depth with that, has stories of actual physical. Like my mom punched her once, and she jokes about it, like, yeah, I punched her so. And I say once because that was the only time I was there to witness this. I know my sister has other stories, and I believe that. And I know my sister lies. I know my sister lies about a lot of stuff because she is like almost a carbon copy of our mother. I'm almost a carbon copy of our mother. I just work harder not to do a lot of the stuff my mother does. And it's not easy. But the point blank thing is, they set up levels, and she was constantly pitting us against each other, even as adults, even while living here, crying to me about how, oh, your sister's just treating me like crap. And then a lot of times it was because, like me, she couldn't give her money for her habit. She couldn't give her money to get high. She didn't want to help her out, or she, how dare she, needed help herself. And my mom, like most narcissists, couldn't see the benefit of helping her anymore. Because when they have a benefit for helping somebody out, whether they want you to be a foot soldier to their fuckery, an attack dog for them, or whether they know that you're a broken person, because narcissists seek out broken people, they love you. You are like candy to them, so sweet and delicious, because they know that you will take even a little compliment, even a little praise, any amount of attention. And ooh, if they seem like they're listening to you, oh my God, that is, they love y'all because you're easy to manipulate. And I don't say that for you to feel bad. Never feel bad for being a target of a narcissist. They seek you out because they know they can mold you into what they need you to be. My mom, as I said before, did it all the time with the favorite auntie stuff. I have tons of cousins. Some of them that are really full of ain't shititis. Some of them that just were really rowdy kids. They were the troublemakers. They liked to cause fights. They liked to steal. They were spoiled in some ways, and they were constantly talked about by the family. Was it right? No, you shouldn't talk shit about kids. Stop it. But that's how a lot of cultures do things. And these kids felt the brunt of family talking about them. So, of course, somebody like my mom, who was very manipulative, giving them the love and, oh no, you're the best type of props that they never got from anybody else, they're going to defend her. And there are a lot of people with NPD that do that. They seek out your friendships. They seek out alliances with you. They want you to be like, no, it can't be them. They're great. No, they have always been nice to me. No, you've got to be understanding. Yeah, no. That is what they do. It is scary, the level of manipulation that these people go through. They also craft personalities. Sometimes they're bitchy because being a bitchy and edgy and mean is a part of their stuff. And then they're really benevolent. They do that like duality. And I say that as somebody, I know I have that duality too. I am trying to be careful with it because there are times where I like to snatch somebody's soul from their body when they get on my nerves. And there are times where I really want to prop somebody up that I like and I enjoy. But I'm very careful to stop people from defending me. I was bad with that back in the early days of Twitter. You know, having that mob mentality is so easy because you gas yourself up. Oh yeah, these people have my back. And it was kind of like how I was growing up in New York. And it's probably why I don't talk to a lot of my old friends from New York, because that shit got tiring. Constantly fighting for people who had too much mouth and not enough skill to back up their fucking mouth. There was just a lot of stuff that I don't want my son having to go through. And as I get older, I don't want to go through. Constantly having to fight that whole bad girls club mentality, that shit ain't fun. I know some people think, oh, I want to be like that. I want to get into fights. I want to get wild and rowdy. No, it's not a fun life. when you're constantly worrying about, you just want to go out and have fun, and you know that going out with a certain amount of friends, there's more than likely going to be a fight. And you're not fighting normal people. You don't know if that fight's going to be the last fight of your life. But I want to get back to the topic because I can go on all kinds of tangents about growing up. I might keep this as a series because I really think a lot of people have gone through this, and it's not a demographic thing, it's not a certain group or anything. So many of us have had fucked up parents. And by talking about my mom, I don't want people thinking, well, what about her dad? He must have had it together. No, but he would need a whole show to himself. And he's dead, so I am very superstitious about speaking ill of the dead. But let's just say my grandparents are the reason why I have any kind of stability, and I will leave it at that as far as he's concerned. Now, if I can figure out a way of talking about the issues he had without feeling like I'm speaking ill of the dead for my own superstitious purposes, maybe I'll do that because I really feel like these chronicle sessions that aren't live, I'm more relaxed at times. I'm not as distracted. So I would like to talk about these things so that people who have gone through this or are going through this don't feel alone. And the thing is, when you're being raised by somebody with NPD or you're in love with somebody with NPD, it's hard for you to see the manipulation when you're going through it. But once you realize that's what they're doing, once you realize that the stuff they're doing is bad and you do not want to be a part of that, even if you had a hand in it, even if you were a henchman for them, because they bank on you being a henchman for them, getting into fights with people for them, being their defenders, it's okay to cut them off. It is healthy to cut them off. I have not spoken to my mom since May 2019. And I mean verbally spoken to her over the phone. I have not had contact with her since June 2019 after she threatened my life. And she might not see it as threatening my life, but anybody who is black or who lives in America right now understands what sending a wellness check by the cops means. She used that threat on my birthday to try to scare me into keeping contact with her after she threatened me for not sending her money anymore. And this is the combo that she does a lot. She makes it seem like she just wants to be a concerned parent. She just wants to be a concerned grandparent. And then she mentally manipulates, bullies, argues, and belittles you. And the thing she did with my son is his own personal journey, so I'm not going to put that out there too much. I'm just going to say my son loves her. He just didn't want to deal with her anymore. And that was the hardest thing because he and I sat and we talked. Because I was ready, if he wanted to keep in contact with her, to have it where he Skyped her every day, they could talk. But she doesn't realize that the amount of bullying she did to him and the yelling at him and the arguing with him and then the coming and tattling on him so that I could yell at him, which I never did, and she hated that. I wasn't going to, she's not my child. Why was she trying to do stuff like that? There's so much that was wrong with our situation. She really wanted to become my baby the way she was acting. But he looked me in the eye and said to me, I don't want to do it. And as somebody who is a proud artistic parent, not that I have autism, I'm the mom of a beautiful child with autism, I respect his boundaries. I respect what makes him comfortable and what makes him uncomfortable, and I'm not going to force him to deal with a toxic, narcissistic bully just because she happens to be his nana. And I know that she doesn't understand that. And she is whining to everybody that will listen that I am keeping her grandchild from her because he's a possession to her. And that's another thing. For a narcissist, we belong to them. To her, it was nothing for me to have to give up my life, my path, my dreams, and my goal to care for her. That is all she cares about. As long as she's taken care of, it doesn't matter if the person caring for her breaks. It doesn't matter if the person caring for her suffers. It is all about her and her needs. And when you factor that in with her needs being very damaging and toxic, and with especially with substance abuse, it makes it worse. So I say this to you: if you are going through this, you are not alone. And if you're stuck in a situation currently, don't blame yourself. One of the things that I did, especially towards the end, before I found a way to get her out of my life, was I kept dialogue with her to a minimum, just enough to appease her so that I didn't have to get yelled at or deal with a tantrum. I did everything I could to keep the house steady, make her food, clean up, do everything that was completely normal, but I kept my space. I stayed in my room a lot away from her. I stopped utilizing her for anything, because that's another thing. If you rely on a narcissist for any way, shape, or form, they will let you know about that. They will act like you cannot do anything without them. So the best thing you can do is limit the need in a way that they don't feel like you're limiting the need, because that's another thing. Once they see you're pulling away, you've declared war on them, because you're taking away their source of bragging. It is that twisted, y'all. But what I did was I slowly, strategically started making it where I could separate myself from her. Bills stayed in my name from the get, because I wasn't putting no bills in her name. She don't pay them. Why would I do that? The only bill that I purposely let her have in her name so she could say, oh, see, I'm helping, was the cable bill. And if you track the history of the cable bill, you'll see who made the majority of payments on said bill. Everything else she did defaulted. So there was no fucking way I was going into a house and having her in charge of any of that. I would be homeless. Anyhow, before I finally convinced her sister, which I would love to thank everybody who helped my GoFundMe for that, because her sister wasn't going to come get her without funds. And I honestly didn't have the funds, but I was breaking at that point. I felt at that moment that it was going to be another it's her or me in a non-healthy way, and that I was going to end up on an episode of Snap, and y'all came through for me. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for all the donations you gave, because I used that money to get her ass out of my house. And I haven't looked back in 2 years, and I thank you for that. And if you're in a situation where you don't have that, I am so sorry, because I can tell you right now, the amount of stress she was putting me under. She watched me break down in a mental health facility from all the stress she was putting me under. She still didn't care. Her apology to me, and that's another thing before I wrap this up, because their apologies are never true apologies. It's never they are directly sorry for the impact and the damage and the things they did. They're just sorry for their role in there and being caught. Or they're sorry that we feel a certain way. It's always those weird non-apology apologies. And she's seen me break down in the mental health facility that I go to get help for my schizoaffective disorder. And that was her reaction. And I will never forget how my doctor was like, you know, you don't owe her taking care of her, right? It was the first time in my life, because my family seemed to believe that I did owe taking care of her, being the oldest. And I'm sure that I'm far from the oldest child that's had to deal with this belief that somehow you being the firstborn means you're automatically responsible for everything your parents do and having to be their caretakers. And while I wanted to do that for the longest time, I felt that was my responsibility. I realized I can't. It's hard. And she made it 50 times harder than it needed to be. Has she been halfway decent, even with her substance abuse? I would have powered through it. That's the sad part about this. If she wasn't suffering from the NPD and just had the issues with drugs, I would have worked harder to get her help, but she didn't think she needed help. She still doesn't think she needs help. She doesn't think anything she's doing is wrong because she's just doing her. And when you have somebody like that that is so stuck on the idea that nothing they do is remotely wrong, they're just doing them, and F anybody who thinks differently, the best thing you can do is to cut off contact. But as I'm about to wrap this up, because I like to do these shorter than actual Bonnet Chronicles, if you're stuck in a situation where you can't get out, and I have friends right now going through this, I see you, and I am so sorry. If I can do anything to help, please reach out. I will try to help you out with strategies that I know, but I know it's not easy. Not everybody has a big family that utilizes that strategy to where you move problematic people between houses, because we don't want our family members to be homeless. For the most part, some family members still fall through that crack. It's not a perfect system, y'all, but it's how a lot of POC especially handle our problems. We don't want you out in the street, we just don't want you with us, so we move family between houses. One of the things I've always been nervous about having my own house is when they're going to call me up again to say, well, it's your turn to take so and so. I've already decided that I'm not doing that anymore, which is probably going to make me more enemies in the family, but we tend to do this in our communities so that family members don't end up homeless. But moving her out took all the help, and I thank everybody who helped me get her out of my house because it was a lot to go on. So when I say this to those of you who are still in the middle of dealing with a toxic partner or a toxic parent because you don't have an out, you don't have an aunt that can come and take her, you don't have a facility, especially right now, minimize your contact with them. Be very wary of the people they're fighting with because they're always going to have enemies. They're always going to have people that you need to stand up for them for. Take time for yourself every day and remind yourself that just because they act that way and just because you did certain things for them to appease them doesn't mean you're like them. And even if you see that you're acting like them, get help. Once you can, get help. Reach out and talk to somebody. One of the things that helped me a lot to not repeat a lot of the same mistakes that my mom made was to reach out and get help. Full mental health. I'm getting it all confused. But I'm going to wrap this one up. I want to thank all of y'all for your constant support, your constant love. I will be on tomorrow doing my live stream for Dungeons and Dragons Online. And then Wednesday, hopefully, I know Axiom has plans to get us out of the house for just a bit on my birthday. I do kind of want to do a birthday stream where I talk about different things and maybe game, but I think it might just be a talk session because I feel like there are a lot of us out there that have gone through things like this with a narcissistic personality parent, with narcissistic or abusive parents that we still don't know how to talk about it. And it's not an easy subject, especially within communities where really you're told from an early age, don't put your business out there. And it is a fine line on how much about yourself you want to put out there, especially when a lot of stuff ain't your story to tell. So I thank y'all for watching this. I thank you all for your constant love and support. And I will see you all soon. Peace.